Ordinary afternoon, the kind where nothing big usually happens. Cars rolled by, people rushed past, lost in their own worlds. And then, someone noticed it. A single shoe, lying in the middle of the road. Old, small, forgotten. People saw it, but no one stopped. Until a little boy, maybe 7 or 8, walked up to the sidewalk and just stood there, watching. Then, slowly, he stepped off the curb. Carefully, quietly. He waited for a break in traffic, and with one small sprint, he grabbed the shoe and brought it to the side, placing it neatly beside a lamppost. No applause, no cameras. Just a simple act because it felt like the right thing to do. Someone asked him, "Why'd you do that?" He shrugged. "It didn't belong in the road," he said. "Someone might come back for moral. You don't need to be asked to do good. You just need to care." Quiet park. There stood an old wooden bench. One day, someone noticed a simple hat resting there. Just an ordinary hat, you might think. Nothing worth paying attention to. But this hat held a story. A story of love, loss, and memory. An old man came to that bench every day. He never sat anywhere else. He would gently pick up the hat, feeling its worn fabric between his fingers. To him, this wasn't just a piece of clothing. It was a bridge to a time long gone. Years ago, the hat belonged to his wife. She used to wear it during their afternoon walks. They would sit on this very bench, watching the world go by, sharing quiet moments, and making memories that would last a lifetime. When she passed away, the old man could have thrown the hat away, or locked it away somewhere no one would see it. But he didn't. Instead, he kept it here, on the bench, where their happiest moments had been shared. Each day, as he touched the hat, he remembered her smile, her laughter, and the gentle way she looked at the world. Those memories gave him strength to face each new day. To passers-by, it might seem like just an old, forgotten hat, but for him, it was a precious reminder of love that never dies, a symbol of hope and connection, even in the face of loss. Sometimes the smallest things carry the heaviest meaning. What looks trivial or unimportant to one person can be everything to another. So next time you see something small, worn, or seemingly insignificant, remember, it might be the last thread holding someone's memories together. The lesson: what seems trivial to you may be all someone else has. In the busy courtyard of a school, a single piece of paper was caught by the breeze. It fluttered and danced through the air until it finally settled on the ground. The paper belonged to a shy girl. It was a heartfelt note she had written to her teacher. A simple message, thanking her for giving hope when she needed it most. As the paper lay on the ground, many stepped over it without noticing. But then, a janitor saw it. Instead of tossing it away like trash, he picked it up carefully and decided to deliver it to the teacher himself. When the teacher read the note, tears welled up in her eyes. She had been struggling quietly, planning to resign at the end of the week, feeling like her efforts went unnoticed and unappreciated. The small message changed everything. It reminded her that her work mattered, that she had made a real difference in at least one life. Sometimes, the words we say or write are more powerful than we realize. A few kind sentences can lift a heavy heart, inspire hope, and even save someone from giving up. So remember, your words have the power to touch lives you may never see. A simple thank you, a note of encouragement, or a kind message can mean the world to someone quietly fighting their battles. A young man would ride the bus and sit next to the same empty seat. It was always there, quiet, untouched, waiting. One day, a stranger got on the bus and sat in that very seat. The young man noticed him, and after a moment, the stranger spoke. They started talking, just simple words at first, about the weather, the city, life. But as minutes passed, their conversation grew deeper, more honest. They shared stories, fears, and dreams. Then, the stranger said something unexpected. "I was on the edge, thinking about ending it all. I told myself, if no one talked to me today, I wouldn't go back home." Moments. That small act of reaching out saved a life. Sometimes we underestimate the power of a single word, or a simple question like, "Are you okay?" It might seem small to you, but to someone else, it can mean everything. That empty seat wasn't just a place on the bus. It was a chance for connection, hope, and a new beginning. One bright, sunny afternoon, a young boy was playing in the park under the shade of a large tree. As he ran around, something on the ground caught his attention. It was a small envelope, slightly worn and folded carefully. Curious, he picked it up. The envelope wasn't opened, and it didn't have a name written on it, just a few marks and stamps. The boy looked around, wondering if anyone had dropped it, but the park was empty. So, instead of keeping it or throwing it away, he decided to do the right thing. He ran as fast as he could to the nearest police station and handed the envelope to an officer. "I found this in the park," he said shyly. The officer smiled and thanked him. "You did a very good thing," he said. The police discovered that inside the envelope were important papers, documents proving ownership of a house. They belonged to an elderly woman who had recently lost her memory. She had forgotten where she lived, and this envelope was the only clue to help her find her way home. Thanks to the honesty and kindness of one small boy, the woman was able to return safely to her home and family. Sometimes, doing what's right isn't about age or strength. It's about having a good heart and the courage to do the right thing, no matter how small it seems. Busy, noisy train station. People hurried past each other, heads down, lost in their own worlds. The air was thick with the sounds of footsteps, chatter, and distant train whistles. Among the crowd stood a poor man. His clothes were worn, and his face showed signs of struggle. In his hands, he held his only possession, a simple sandwich. He looked around, searching for a quiet place to sit and eat. Just as he settled down, a man approached him. The stranger was dirty and tired, wearing clothes that had clearly seen better days. Without hesitation, the poor man broke his sandwich in half. He looked up, met the stranger's eyes, and said softly, "Here, take this. You need it more." His eyes filled with surprise and gratitude, he reached out and accepted the gift with trembling hands. What the poor man didn't know was that this stranger was no ordinary person. He was a millionaire disguised as a homeless man, seeking to find true kindness and humanity away from wealth and fame. That small act of sharing touched the millionaire deeply. It reminded him that generosity isn't about how much you have. It's about giving what you can, from the heart. As the poor man walked away, the millionaire stayed for a moment, thinking about the power of simple kindness. How one small gesture could change a life. In a world that moves so fast and where people often look the other way, sometimes the smallest act of generosity can shine the brightest. Had a fight with her father, the kind of fight that leaves silence heavy in the air and hearts feeling distant. Later that evening, she sat quietly by her desk and took out a piece of paper. Slowly, carefully, she began to write a letter, an apology to her father. Words she wished she could say out loud but was too afraid to. She wrote about her regret, about how much she missed him, and how sorry she was for the harsh words. But after finishing the letter, she hesitated. Doubt crept in and Thea held her back. She folded the letter carefully and hid it in her drawer. She didn't send it. She didn't give it to her father. What she didn't know was that her little brother had found the letter. He read it quietly, understanding the love behind the words, and without telling anyone, he slipped the letter into their father's pocket. That night, as the house grew quiet, their father went into her room. He sat beside her bed and gently pulled her into a warm embrace. "I'm sorry I hurt you," he whispered softly. "Thank you for your words, even the ones you didn't say." Tears came to her eyes, because sometimes the things we don't say, the words we keep inside, can still heal the deepest wounds. In that moment, a simple letter, carried by love and courage, mended what felt broken. Quiet town. There was an old school with a bell tower. Every morning, the bell rang loudly, signaling the start of a new day, calling children to their lessons, and filling the air with a sense of routine and hope. But one day, the bell didn't ring. The children arrived at school, confused. The teachers looked around, puzzled. Something was wrong. The bell had broken, and no one knew how to fix it quickly. At first, the day seemed ordinary. Classes started. Lessons were taught, and the children tried to focus. But without the familiar sound of the bell, something was missing. The silence was loud. A sense of unease grew quietly among everyone. The bell was more than just a signal. It was a rhythm, a comfort, a reminder that life goes on, even when things feel uncertain. The silence forced everyone to slow down and listen, not to the bell, but to each other. Students started talking more. Teachers noticed the small worries behind their students' eyes. Conversations replaced routine. By the afternoon, something beautiful happened. The broken bell had opened space for connection, a reminder that sometimes what we think we need the most isn't a sound or signal, but the presence and attention of those around us. Later, the bell was fixed and its chime returned to the town, but the lesson stayed with everyone. That day, the silence spoke louder than any bell ever could. Bus stop in the heart of the city, people hurried by, each lost in their own thoughts. Among them sat a small, forgotten toy, a little teddy bear, worn and dusty, lying quietly on the bench. No one seemed to notice it. A young boy waiting for his bus spotted the toy. His eyes lit up with curiosity, and a gentle smile spread across his face. He picked up the teddy bear, feeling its soft, worn fur. He looked around, hoping to find its owner, but the bus stop was crowded, and no one seemed to be looking for a lost toy. The boy decided to take the teddy bear with him, promising himself to keep it safe until someone came to claim it. Days passed. The boy carried the teddy bear everywhere, on the bus, to school, even to bed. It became his quiet companion, a small friend in a big world. One afternoon, while waiting for the bus again, the boy noticed an elderly woman standing nearby, looking worried and scanning the crowd. He approached her gently and asked, "Did you lose something?" Her eyes softened and she nodded slowly. "This teddy bear?" he asked, holding it out. Tears welled up in her eyes as she took the toy in her hands. "Yes, it belonged to my late granddaughter," she whispered. The teddy bear was more than just a toy. It was a cherished memory, a symbol of love that never fades. That small moment of kindness, of noticing and caring, brought a little light into both their lives. While waiting for the bus again, the boy noticed an elderly woman standing nearby, looking worried and scanning the crowd. He approached her gently and asked, "Did you lose something?" Her eyes softened and she nodded slowly. "This teddy bear?" he asked, holding it out. Tears welled up in her eyes as she took the toy in her hands. "Yes, it belonged to my late granddaughter," she whispered. The teddy bear was more than just a toy. It was a cherished memory, a symbol of love that never fades. That small moment of kindness, of noticing and caring, brought a little light into both. An old man sat quietly at a corner table. His hands trembled slightly as he took out a worn wallet from his pocket. He opened it carefully and pulled out a small, faded photo. It was a picture of a young woman, smiling warmly, her eyes full of life and love. The man looked at the photo for a long moment, his eyes reflecting memories of days gone by. That photo was all he had left from his late wife. She had passed away years ago, but her memory lived on in his heart and in that tiny image. Every day, he would take out the photo and remember the moments they shared, the laughter, the dreams, the quiet evenings together. One day, a young woman working at the cafe noticed the man's gentle smile as he looked at the photo. She asked softly, "Is she someone special?" The old man nodded, tears welling up. "She was my world. Even though she's gone, this photo reminds me that love never truly leaves us." The young woman smiled back, touched by the depth of his feelings. Sometimes the smallest things, a photo, a memory, a moment, can hold the greatest meaning. They connect us to the people we love, no matter where life takes us.